stillbirth. During my hospital stay, I was diagnosed with situational depression, and in the 4 short months that followed, I was put on 3 different mental health treatments, and none of which actually worked, as we all know. That happens a lot. After that, I was denied any further mental health treatment because my doctor deemed me fully recovered. When are you ever fully recovered from losing a child? That doesn't happen. With the persuasion that I was supposed to feel better, and the inconclusive autopsy that we had, so no reason why this happened. I did my best to move forward and move on with this life that didn't include the baby girl I was supposed to raise, and now the relationship I was in was crumbling from the trauma as well. That was the first time in my life that suicide ever presented itself as a viable option, just anything to stop the pain that I was feeling. Fast forward to 2010, my son was born via emergency C-section. He was not breathing, he had to be suctioned, and spent the first few hours of his life in the NICU. I had my own problems with my own blood pressure, and because of the medication I was on, I couldn't hold him for the first 36 hours of his life. So there I am, laying in bed, not able to even get close to my son. The NICU nurse was able to bring him into me and kind of hold him above my face. And all I could do was just smile at this sweet, wrinkly face that I hadn't seen yet. And we made eye contact, and we had that moment when you meet your child for the first time. It's nothing short of magical. I was finally a mother. In those early months as a single parent, though, my family would tell you that I suffered from postpartum depression, but I was so wrapped up in my son's health and making sure he was okay, I completely forgot about my own needs. Then last year, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl through scheduled C-section. Finally, I was able to hold my newborn baby minutes after she was born. It was, again, nothing short of magical. I went full force into nursing and pumping every 2 to 3 hours, and going days without sleep. On top of the normal stress that comes with a newborn, my family was running into financial issues, and we ended up having to move 2 weeks after she was born. So imagine having to pack up a house, move with a newborn and a fresh C-section scar. It was not fun. And then after that, I had to promptly stop breastfeeding. And nobody told me that when you stop breastfeeding, the hormone drop that you receive is astronomical. And I became this walking, talking, emotional roller coaster of a mom. I was losing hair by the handfuls. I gained 30 pounds in what seemed like overnight. And I was unable to smile without crying. I didn't recognize the shell of a woman that I saw in the mirror every day. My newborn was sleeping through the night, which was a blessing, but I laid awake all night contemplating how I could make my own suicide look like an accident, because that was the only way that my life insurance policy would pay, and that would fix all of our financial problems. It's a really bad headspace to be in. When my daughter was 2 months old, I checked myself into a psychiatric hospital for a 72-hour evaluation, diagnosed with suicidal ideation with a plan. The hospital was sterile, and so were the doctors and nurses. I began to miss my reality instead of trying to escape from it. I slept most of those 72 hours and was sent home with new medication and the name of a follow-up doctor. I was alive and grateful to be, but I wouldn't call myself better in that moment. Thankfully, my company has a paid parental leave benefit, so I got to spend 8 extra weeks at home to really focus on my mental health and take care of myself and bring myself back as close back to 100% as possible. Now, my birth experiences were different each time, but they all led to some level of postpartum mental illness. And I'm not alone. 15% of mothers are diagnosed with postpartum depression, anxiety, or psychosis in the first year after delivery. Of maternal deaths in that first year, 1 of 5 are suicides related to postpartum depression. I was almost a statistic. When I see that, it reminds me, you have to come back and count your blessings. Because I have a beautiful family, I have things to live for. But in that moment, that was a hard thing to see. So, why am I telling you all this? Why are we here today? We're here because we know that early awareness, diagnosis, and treatment are the key to getting ahead of mental illness. Extra screening in prenatal and postnatal, the home visits that is not common in the US but seems to be common in other countries. I think that's something we should all get on board with, because that would have been super helpful. What can we do? How can we, everybody knows someone who's a mother. Everybody knows someone who's going through mental illness. What can we do to help these people outside of giving them governmental resources? What can we do as friends and family? We can lift each other up. Don't judge the mom that's, scrolling through her phone while her kids run around the playground, because that's probably the only 5 minutes of peace she's gonna get that day. And go over and strike up a conversation with her. Compliment that messy bun that's, on trend right now that we all mothers are so happy for. If you're a mom, journal. Write everything down. Mom brain is so real. It's painful sometimes how real it is. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't be afraid to ask your friends how they're doing. Ask your sister, ask your mother, ask your nieces and any other family member how they're doing. Check in on them. Especially in those first few weeks, because the hormone change is so drastic. They could be fine on Monday and be a ball of tears on Tuesday, and then be fine again on Wednesday. So that daily check-in is very, very valuable to that new mom. Don't forget that the mom went through a lot. Everybody is so on top of the baby and trying to celebrate the baby, which is great. This brand new life has come into the world, and it's wonderful, and it deserves to be celebrated. Don't forget what mom went through. Being a new mom can feel like you're standing in the middle of a crowded room screaming and nobody can hear you. You're isolated but not physically alone. And that's something that I grappled with and struggled with and could not get my husband to understand until I went through this last bout of postpartum. One resource that the US has is a texting service, and it's 741-741. You text it and you just text the word help or service or anything like that. You immediately get a response back saying that someone will be with you shortly. And then every time I've used it, it's been less than 5 minutes. You're on a first name basis with somebody, and they're talking you off the ledge, and they're offering you resources and making sure you're safe. And if you're in a position where you're not safe, they take care of calling the local authorities to provide you with more help. So 741-741. And it's a free service, and it's been wonderful, and they don't care how small your problem is. It's, I could just have had a hard time and the baby wasn't going to sleep and I was at my wit's end, and they were able to just kind of remind me I'm a good mother and make me take deep breaths, and actually sent me the Calm app to use, which was funny. But yeah, so what we understand is that mental illness does not care what gender you are, what political party you side with, or what nationality you represent. It affects everyone. No one is exempt from the roller coaster ride. By lifting the stigma around mental health, hard conversations can happen, and we can get the help that we need. Everyone here is an advocate for something. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. So remember to be an advocate for yourself and each other too.